Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
There's no business like show business, like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing, everything that traffic will allow. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra bow. There's no people like show people, they smile when they are low. Yesterday they told you you would not go far. That night you open and there you are. Next day on your dressing room they've hung a star. Let's go on with the show. The costumes, the scenery, the makeup, the props, the audience that lifts you when you're down. The headaches, the heartaches, the backaches, the flops, the sheriff who escorts you out of town. The opening when your heart beats like a drum. The closing when the customers don't come. There's no business like show business, like no business I know. You get word before the show has started that your favorite uncle died and gone. And top of that, your partner has parted. You're broken hearted, but you go on. There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Even with a turkey that you know will fold, you may be stranded out in the cold. Still you wouldn't change it for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show. Let's go on with the
All right, let's go on with the show. And here we are this morning on a lovely, lovely Tuesday morning. This is Ken's Den. Obviously, I am not Ken. Ken is off again watching something that he is going to implode today, and we will have that, I'm sure, and all that information coming. Yes, I'm getting a terrible echo here. But obviously, I'm not Ken. This is Kathy Palmer coming to you.
Kathy, it sounds like one of the TVs is turned up, so you may want to grab the remote.
Is there a TV turn on? We have the remote.
The remote. Turn the remote. The volume's down on one. Turn the volume down on the TVs. I think one of the. Is that better? Yeah. See, that's going away.
That works.
Is that better?
I don't know. No, I'm still hearing it. Still hearing it.
Where is it coming from?
Still hearing it.
It's not going through the floor monitor.
That's better.
See, it was going through the TV.
Echo.
I know exactly what the problem is.
You did know exactly what it was.
That's why we have producer Pete here. He
knows
everything.
All right, so welcome to Channel 15, Westfield Community Programming on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, October 8th. This is Kathy Palmer coming to you, Channel 15, also WSKB, in cooperation with Westfield State University, 89.5 FM, and westfieldtv.org. So I am here because Ken is gone, and I have my trusty sidekick, as always, Mr. Harry Ruck. Good morning, Harry.
Good morning, Kathy. Always happy to be here with you. And Ken is off gallivanting around the country.
Gallivanting is what he does well.
He's going to watch a big boom.
Is that what he's doing?
There's going to be a kaboom, Peter?
Yes.
I thought there was going to be a kaboom.
It's supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
An earth-shattering kaboom.
So, Pete, why aren't you there? You're usually
I have no building. I have no interest in seeing a building implosion.
Okay.
Apparently, it's sentimental to Ken, so he feels he must go out and capture this for all 24 seconds of it.
Oh, 24 seconds. Wow.
It's a building implosion.
You're right.
They're knocking down one of the old casino buildings,
I'll watch it on.
and then they might have fireworks afterwards.
I'll watch it on video.
That's what I said. I
Yeah,
was
we'll
like,
watch it on video
I
because
was
there'll
like,
be
you're gonna-
million people.
20,000, 30,000 people are going to be going to watch this. Have fun with the massive I tried talking him out of it because I had a better option for him. The National Association of Broadcasters is having a convention in New York City tomorrow. And we were supposed to go to look at equipment down there for the new vehicle that we're going to be getting eventually. And so he blew that off to go watch a building go down.
Oh, well, life goes on. As I've
know.
always said, the sun will still shine, the world will
But
still
he's in
turn, and I
Vegas,
still
right?
have too
Is
many
that where he
cats.
is?
Yeah, he's flying out this morning.
Well,
what's
that's what he
happening.
likes, though. He's going for more reasons than just watch a building. So
No, not this trip.
really,
Yep, literally just going to watch. He's going for 3 days.
wow. Hey Pete, I'm sending you a couple of photos that we may pull up,
Oh, sure. No, I'll try.
depending on how our conversation goes.
He's in the middle of this. Is this from your Facebook post?
Probably.
Yes.
Well, that voice you hear, ladies and gentlemen, coming from the netherworld is none other than our producer, Peter Coles. Peter is the man of the hour who does everything that we need to have done here, and we thank him very much for being with us. Harry, we have our favorite guests back again, and I'm going to let you do the honors of introducing them when you put down the phone. How do you like that?
Well,
voice?
I'm trying to send.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I will start introducing them. We have
ahead.
this morning the. Are you still going by Western Mass Hilltown Hikers, or have you changed?
And
your-
Hilltown Hikers,
That's
either
the
one.
corporate name. So
Okay.
We go by both.
we say Hilltown Hikers because everyone
You
says
need to get a little closer to it, Liz.
it's the Hilltown Hikers.
All righty. And Harry, would you like to introduce these young ladies? You are familiar with them as I am. He's speechless. Look at
I
this.
love how you say young.
I know it. I know it. Liz Mazza, president
Yes, President. Still
of the Western. The official word is Western Mass
Western Mass Hilltown Hikers.
Hikers, and Karen McTaggart. Thank you. Who I don't even know.
Vice President.
Vice President. I was thinking, doer of anything and everything that Liz asked you to do.
I call her VP of Operations.
She, you're so lucky to have this
I know.
fabulous young lady working with you because
See, he
she
said
does,
young lady, too.
she does everything. She's everywhere. I can't go anywhere except for the Huntington Country
Which I was
Festival.
in New York.
Right. I don't care where I am. I hear
She's
her
there.
voice. Hey, Harry.
This is
She
exactly
shouts out of
why.
cars. I
Yep.
run into her. She's absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
And she's always, as you are, always wearing your official colors. The orange, the name, Hilltown Hikers.
Yes.
But you have in your hat,
Yes.
hashtag Hike the Hilltowns. But the two of you have done, how many years have you been together now as a
Going on
organization?
15?
Yeah, it's more than 15.
More than
we keep
15.
losing track because the time goes,
Is that
time
when you
goes by.
started the organization?
It was just us.
Yeah, and that's when it was an ad hoc organization. I mean, now we're a nonprofit 501c3, but
It's
2019.
15 years? Wow.
Yeah, a little more than 15 years. Since I moved to the Hilltowns from East Forest Park, Springfield.
Oh, good. That is a switch.
Yeah. Well, Karen's dad was the first person I met when I moved out to the Hilltowns, and I'm originally from Hamden, Mass. So I grew up in the woods. So I was living in Springfield. I was dying to get back out into the country. So I moved to the other Hilltown. Hamden is the other side of the river.
Yeah,
this side of the
right,
river.
right.
And then he introduced me. He said, "Oh, you have to meet my daughter, Karen." Oh,
And I had just moved back to the Hilltowns from Agawam.
Okay.
yeah.
I
so-
lived over there for like 20 years.
Oh, wow.
But Karen, you're a Hilltown girl.
Yeah, I
though,
grew
to
up.
begin with.
I
She
grew up.
did.
You grew up in Russell.
Yes.
She
Right.
did.
But the two of you have just personified. There's nobody, I'm saying hands down, nobody that doesn't know or hasn't heard of the Hilltown Hikers
Right.
because you're everywhere. Your messaging is phenomenal. Your posters, you are at festivals, you're at the canoe races, you're everywhere with your banners talking about everything you do, all the hikes. You're getting unbelievable numbers. I don't know how you manage it, quite frankly. The hikes are probably getting too big for you,
Yeah.
But that's how much popularity there is. And what really is significant about the work that you two are doing is the research, is the historical research. And you are discovering and finding things, historical artifacts and locations that when I first kind of discovered you two, and I think the first time I met you was here.
I think so, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
it was.
Yep.
Yes, it
Excellent.
was.
I'm trying to think how many years ago that was.
It was
Just
a while
few years
ago, 2 or 3 years ago now.
But I see you guys everywhere now. But I have always followed you on Facebook because I was always fascinated with these places that you were finding. I'm not going to get the name right. The Huckleberry Fin trolley.
Huckleberry trolley line.
I always say Huckleberry.
No fin.
Right. But the Huckleberry trolley line, or Ann and I just this past week hiked up and found the granite quarry that fed the stone.
We'll talk more
back
about
to
that
Rory.
later. Let's
Right.
not jump into that. I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves before we start.
But we're so excited about who we
and
have.
I always have to have you because of him.
But
We
He
love
won't
Gary.
come on.
But
if I don't
anyway,
have it.
it's great to have the two of you on, and kudos to you for the work that you're doing to really showcase the hill towns and everything that's
Okay,
great about
let's
the hill
let's
towns
take
and the historical.
take a break here.
Yeah.
Take
All
a
right,
break
Kathy,
here.
it's your show. Go
Before,
for it.
no. Before we get into what Harry has a lot of questions for you, and I'll turn it over to him. But tell us what the Hilltown Hikers are, how they started, and where it began. So we have background, and then it's up to Harry. Go for it. Either one of you. What are the Hilltown Hikers?
So, well, basically, it's all about outdoor recreation. So, what we try to do is, and what we have been doing for over 15 years, is basically getting people out there. So you have all the aspects of getting some exercise, learning about Western Mass history, and also being social and making connections with other people who have something in common like you do, which, outdoor recreation or tours, because we have evolved over the years. So it's not
Yes,
just
you have.
hiking. We're 50% history and 50% hiking. So, it's the complete package, and it's everything Western Mass. And we cover Westfield west to the New York border and north and south. So it's a large area, and that's why we're so busy. And there's so much history in Western Mass, especially the many areas we have that are underdeveloped. So that means the history is still out there in the woods on the public lands. So, we've made many relationships over the last few years, including, with DCR and the National Park Service. And I think we're signing that MOU today with the New England Forestry Foundation. I mean, we've worked with all of them, and it's just so amazing to be out there and being included in that effort to get people outside.
So tell me more about this MOU that you've got.
So basically, what the outdoor recreation groups do is we all try to work together because, if we're all together, we get more done and we reach more people. So there's several different aspects to that. One is land stewardship, meaning like you take care of if there are trails there, the land there, land monitoring to make sure that everything is well. And we do that with Hilltown Land Trust in Chester at Round Top Hill, which is the highest mountain in Hampden County. And you're responsible for monitoring the area and that public land parcel. So most recently, we have a relationship with New England Forestry Foundation with the Wright Memorial Forest, which is also in Chester, which is a very large parcel. And we're super excited. I mean, just super excited to work with everyone. Back in the days when Karen and I were hiking Chester Blanford State Forest or any DCR state forest, right? We would, we'd be hiking along. We'd be like, Karen, one day, you never know. This thing might really snowball, and we could become official and work with the DCR. And now here we are today doing, hikes and events with them. Mike Whalen up at Mount Greylock, Alec Gilman, who's out of Pittsfield. So it's amazing. And
They love us.
The people that we meet is just great. And the more, like I said, the more of our organizations working together, the more we can provide information and reach people to get them out. So the majority of the people that actually come to our events are not from the hill towns. They're from the Pioneer Valley. They're from New York State, Connecticut. So we're bringing people into Western Massachusetts, so we're basically like your travel and tourism department of the hill towns, boosting that economic development, getting people out to eat at our restaurants.
I've noticed that, Harry, too, that remember when they started, it was just the hiking.
Yeah, right.
But as you said, they're everywhere now.
Yeah, no, you really are. Remind me how many official hill towns are there? Why do I think 13?
Well, they actually, they split them, and people say north and south, like the northern hill towns, southern hill. So northern hill towns would be like, Worthington and Windsor even. And I call everything in Western Mass a hill town, honestly, because there's so many, we are in the hills. There's really nothing flat.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So, well, you have North and South County, Berkshire.
I mean, for me, I grew up here, so I consider the hill towns the towns of the Gateway District.
Yes.
But it's much, much more than that. Now I realize as I'm getting out more.
Yes, and you can't leave anyone out. We love Granville. We love Tolland. I mean, there's just so many wonderful towns. Each one has its own personality. Each one is different, and their open spaces are equally different. So they all have something amazing. And we were in Adams last month, right? Adams.
We've been everywhere in the last couple.
I mean, what a wonderful
I noticed
town
that.
there. Yeah. There's so much, and the best thing about it is if you're here in Westfield and you want to come to one of our events like we did Stockbridge, Bullard Woods, it's really not a long drive at all. And we're so close to so many attractions.
And that's actually a nice hike for everybody, I think.
Yeah,
it's up by Tanglewood, and anybody can do that hike, I think.
That was really a wonderful place. We hiked with Mr. Bob Leverett this year with the old growth forest. My goal this year was to learn more about old growth, and to be able to identify all the trees. That is difficult. I mean, I have a stack of books, so I said, let's go, and we did some work with Ranger over at Mohawk Trail State Forest last summer, and he invited us back this year, and we did a event with Mr. Bob Leverett and the Old Growth Tree Network, and that was really amazing to actually hear him talk. And he's kind of like him and his wife. It's like me and Karen, like they just love it so much, and they're out there with their gear, and they're just, he talks and talks and talks, and that's kind of like my problem. Yeah, he loves the trees,
right.
So he accentuates, and educates. So it's the same thing we do. We're out in the woods, we're educating, we're telling people, well, this is how you can find a cellar hole. This is what you're looking for, the mound, the two big trees in the front. And why are there two big trees in the front?
They're old trees.
Yes, and they're usually wedding gifts to the landowner. That's what the two old trees are.
I did not know that.
Whoa, what?
Interesting.
So in the
Learn
front,
more every day.
this is so at a cellar hole where the opening is where the front door would have been. You're talking
Yes,
about?
it's usually in the front of the building, and you'll see if they're still alive. And unfortunately, these old growth trees in Western Mass, I've been told several times by different people that they're probably the last of them in our generation, and they'll no longer be, they'll cease to exist. But those two large trees you see outside of a cellar hole are usually, not always, usually the gift to the couple that got married, that's their house and that's their family.
My question is, what do you mean by old growth tree?
So old growth tree. Well, old growth tree has actually many meanings, but it is a tree that is in, it's up there in age. It has survived many different challenges in the forest. And, there are trees in Mohawk Trail State Forest that are 400 years old.
Oh, I believe that.
So old growth would be the original trees that were here before the colonists came.
That escaped the first cutting.
Right.
Because then you have the second generation also, but there's still old growth in the second generation. But that first cutting when the colonists first came and settled Western Mass, and they needed the trees. They needed them to build their houses, charcoal industry.
Right.
So they devoided, so there was few standing. You have pasture trees, so in the farmers' sheep grazing pastures, they did leave trees there for shade.
Oh, they did.
Yes, they did. So those are a few that you would see. So that's why I said there's so many aspects: the old growth, the cemeteries, the lost cemeteries.
Yes. It's Karen and me.
We got you guys.
In fact, Karen, when we were driving around Sunday, we went by one, and he said, before I even said anything, no, we're not stopping.
See?
Karen and I have this thing. You go by an old cemetery, Harry, you have to stop. It's a rule in our lives.
I see a lot of them, and there's no way I can stop at them all. I'll never get to where I'm going.
What's the official name again?
There's a name.
Taphophile. You are a taphophile, Kathy.
Wait, what's this word? What?
Taphophile.
What is that?
It's somebody that loves to go into cemeteries.
And I don't know what it is, because I obviously don't know these people. It's
know,
not like they're my relative.
Ann and I, partly because the foliage is going on right now, but we love going out just to look at foliage. But we love trying to find.
Yes, we know Selfie King.
Selfie King.
Oh, we got it. We'll come back.
I went on your Facebook
and we
post.
do have to get to that.
Yeah, we'll come to that, Pete. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But we've been driving. We've been having fun discovering gravel roads, dirt roads.
Yes.
So it's amazing. We keep finding more and more. All from. In Huntington.
I love the old roads.
Yep.
I love driving.
Where does this road
Russell,
go? Yeah.
Huntington, Worthington, South
back
Worthington.
road. Where is it?
There's a whole bunch all up in there.
Richmond, Adams, everywhere.
And invariably, you find these old cemeteries out in the middle of nowhere, all completely overtaken by the forest.
They have great.
And I'm like, where do these come from? Who was living out
Families.
here?
They're on the old roads.
They're probably families.
They have great old roads in Worthington.
They have what?
Worthington has great old roads.
Oh, great.
And they're great condition.
Yeah, they are.
They're in great condition.
Right. By Cena's brewery, I just discovered one that goes up on the high side. You have Cold Road. That comes out by Liston's. But on the other side, it comes out to 143, I think, all the way out. It's like, wow, where do these roads all come from? And then there's one by the Cummington Fairgrounds. You climb up, and then it kind of goes across the ridge and then drops down. I wouldn't take a car down this thing, that's for sure. It's pretty gnarly getting down there, and then all of a sudden you run into houses.
I would.
Yeah, that's Karen. Yeah, that's Karen. She'll drive them.
So So how long have you been a 501c3?
2019.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only reason why we had to do that, we actually had to, because like you were saying before, that the events actually got too big. It was COVID, where we were having 80 to 100 people.
Yeah, right. I think that's when I first started.
Yeah, and that's when we switched to registration and whatnot for our public events. But we've learned as we've gone on. And we've came up with the Flash Hikers. Flash Hikers is a donation for membership. So if you're a member, then you are hiking with us every weekend. So it's not just the once a month. Once a month we offer the public group event, which is good for all. And then we hike every weekend regardless. So we're doing trail work for organizations, including ourselves, and we're doing tours and doing things with DCR. And that's where that membership aspect comes in. So it broke it out to be Flash Hikers is a smaller group. So it'd be 5 to 10 people. And then we're able to go to places where there's much less parking. You know, it's actually extremely difficult to set up a public group
that's
hike.
right. I didn't even think about the parking.
Yeah,
right?
in December, actually, it's coming up. We have our annual meeting, and we decide our schedule for the following year, 1 year in advance. And we mark the places, and you have to consider all those things. Parking, safety, can everyone actually do this route? You know, how long is the route? What are we showing people? All those things. So, you know, yes, it's you know, it's a business, it's a nonprofit business, and it's work, and it's something. It's the work that you wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to go.
Yeah,
do
right.
it.
Good for you. Yeah, it's your real passion.
And then you think about, I really have to go to my real job today.
So
I told you that gets in the way.
Yes,
that surely does.
We keep telling Karen she has to retire.
I have to.
You know what?
Need you full time for the Hilltown Hikers.
Yes.
This is just flying. This time is just flying, and I want to make sure we get to the picture you had there of the granite sawmill and talk a little bit about that,
right.
because otherwise we're going to run out of time, and I know you've got a lot to tell us. So,
One last question before
Sure.
we transition out. How many members do you have now?
So in total, it's somewhere around 14,000.
14,000 members?
14,000. So
these might
14,000.
And we have
but these might just be
some
people
are
that
just
are following
followers
us.
that don't actually come. Armchair. We
Armchair
have
hikers we
Armchair
created.
hikers.
Yeah.
Armchair hikers.
Good for
You
you.
follow our adventures. You
Yeah.
learn about the history.
Well, I'm an armchair hiker.
You don't
I
have
follow
to
you
be.
guys.
Oh, no, you
don't have to be a hiker to
You're
be
a
a member
hiker.
of the Hilltown Hikers. Absolutely not.
No, because your post, you're doing a lot of the photography. Well, you both do the photography, but your narratives are wonderful because they're so interesting and there's so much historical information that you're
Right. We
you're
spend a lot of
communicating.
time researching. So in the wintertime, when the snow's really deep and we can't get out and snowshoe or cross-country ski, because we do that too, we're spending time in the Westfield Athenaeum, Berkshire Athenaeum, all the libraries, all the historicals. We do give talks. I'm giving a talk for Notice Otis to blast off their season next week, I think that is. So that's where all the historical research comes into play. Usually in the winter months, we work on that. And then we have it ready for the following season to actually get out there and bring people out and learn about the history.
Kathy, I think we're ready for a break.
Well, I would like to get into the granite fund that you have. Can you tell how did that even come about?
I think we were watching it for a while, the land, and
So-
we knew we wanted.
So
get
tell us what it is
It's-
first of all.
So it's a granite sawmill, meaning a finishing plant, okay, from the 1870s.
Pete, pull that photo up again.
And so over the years in the past, that's
This was last
that's
week.
one of our. There it is. There's the showcase event
Yep.
of it. So over the years, working with Mr. Dave Pierce at the Chester Railway Museum, we gave many tours, including the Keystone Arches and such, and some Factory Village history tours in Chester. And this property is actually directly across from the Chester Railway Museum.
Oh.
And
Okay.
and we were friendly with the landowner. It was private property, 3-acre parcel with a house. And after doing these, what we basically could only do with permission with Dave is we would always add it like a bonus, like, do you want to see the granite saw? And we could walk people in 2 feet. And I say 2 feet because it had 80 years of forest growth there.
There was like a little path.
It was it was a little channel that you could get through. And Dave Pierce and I and Karen were like, this place has to be conserved. It has to be saved. It's a huge piece. It was the largest stone cutting plant in Western Massachusetts, second to
Interesting.
Quincy. Second to Quincy.
Is that right?
Yes,
Oh.
and it is and was and still is the largest shot saw in the state of Massachusetts. So, so with a lot of convincing and talking to the landowner and whatnot, we said, we'd be interested in conserving this. We're a nonprofit. We can purchase it on behalf of the nonprofit and put it into conservation so no one ever tears it down or builds a house there. And that's what we did. And a little insider tip, one of our previous directors, Michelle, was actually related to the landowner. That was her stepfather's property. So we did have a little inside there to try. So, so it has been exactly only 1 year. We purchased it September 25th of last year. And I think that was the best thing ever. It was we were working with the Chester Foundation and Dave Pierce to see, which one of us could actually purchase it. I fronted the money to purchase it and said the time is now, and if we don't do it, we'll lose it. And they were looking to sell the property. So we stepped up and did that, and then all I remember after that is all the poison ivy we've got.
Oh, ouch.
I mean, abandoned for 80 years. Lots of trash. It was, people would just dump their stuff there. There's a lot of equipment still there. And the way that the plant was situated, there were several buildings. I mean, it was a huge operation. It was also state of the art, far advanced for its time. And I know a lot of people are familiar with the Quincy quarries, and
I am not. Are you?
That's a place you should definitely visit.
No.
Well, Karen goes up to Maine.
Yeah.
So the person, what we have found out in our research so far, because I could tell you we're working on the historical designation, and then, we're looking for national status, landmark status for the granite saw property.
Okay.
So it involves a lot of research, and we're working with Mass Historical to get that, because that way we would be able to
WSKB.
get historical grants. And we had found it was originally called York and Company, and that was 1870, and the gentleman who started that was from Maine. So I've been researching the Maine quarries lately, so I can try to follow the path of how this came to be. The Beckett Quarry, which is now a trustees of reservations property.
Yeah, Pete, I'm going to send you a picture of that, too.
You have a picture of the Beckett? That would be great. So there's a granite vein in Western Mass that extends from Beckett into Otis.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's Beckett Quarry
Oh,
right
thank
there.
you, Pete. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
Are
still
you
on your
getting
Facebook post.
Yeah,
So-
yep. There you go.
It was
Yes.
originally saved and put into conservation by the people at the Beckett Land Trust. It was going to be developed, and they saved it and conserved it, so it's a historical place that people can visit, open to the public. This was the largest quarry in the area for granite. Even though, people say Chester granite was all in Beckett. This is not. So what happened is they found all this stone that was valuable for making roads, buildings, monuments. It evolved over time of what they were using the granite stone for. But it was exceptional quality. And all along this vein, we have found out in our travels, besides the Beckett Quarry, that there are several other smaller quarries. There's also the Bow Quarry, now known as Alan Williams Granite Plant. His brother Ed also has a quarry. And all this stone was being dug up because it was worth money. So where are they going to bring it to actually finish it? When they pull it out of the quarries, as you saw when you visited there, Harry, big blocks. And they needed to break that down. So here we are. Our granite saw and finishing works is where they brought the stone from the Beckett Quarry, and they actually built a railroad to do that, which is the Chester and Beckett Railroad that runs from Chester to the Beckett Quarry, and then there's actually a spur that continues from Beckett Quarry to what was the Bow Quarry, and today presently is Allen Williams Quarry in Otis. So all this stone was coming down the mountain, and it was coming to Chester. There was an upper finishing works also. There were 2 in Chester, and the upper didn't make it too long, but there were 2, and they brought it down on this railroad right to the center of Chester, and that's where they employed up to 200 men to finish the stone.
Wow.
So that is what we have the direct connection with the Beckett Quarry site, and that is the site that we own, which is the actual finishing plant.
You know, one of the things, and one of these, you can actually see the rail. There's still some rails left from the old, I think it was narrow gauge railroad that was there. And you can see the railroad bed. It runs parallel to the wood road that you hike up to get to it.
Correct.
And then it moves off. What is confusing to me, and Ann and I were talking about this, there is a significant grade difference from where Chester is to where this quarry is. And we were trying to, I think it's well over 1,000 feet or more. It's significant.
Little less, but yes.
But how did that, and I'm thinking these are just old steam trains at the time. So I'm thinking, and I'm looking at how steep the hill was when we're driving down it to get down to Route 20 again. And I'm thinking, how did the train get down here?
They went very slow, we read. Very slow.
But they originally actually ran.
But it couldn't have run that pitch.
Oh, they
They
did.
probably ran switchbacks, too.
Yeah, there are switchbacks. So originally it was a wood-burning locomotive that ran that line from Chester to the Beckett Quarry, believe it or not, and then it went to the coal. But when you come up through Chester, that Chester and Beckett Railroad runs behind all the homes in Route 20. You drive Route 20. You actually drive over a bridge that's actually a railroad bridge that you were going over it. You wouldn't even know. We just had a Chester and Beckett Railroad tour last weekend, which was a Housatonic Heritage event, where we walked people on a section of that railroad in Chester. So it goes all the way up and follows Route 20, and you can actually see it if you're coming through Chester in the Walker Brook Valley, and you can see it when you're going west on your left-hand side in the mountain. Crosses Quarry Road, and just past Quarry Road, there's a switchback, and then it continues to climb adjacent to Quarry Road all the way up to the Beckett Quarry. Where you park at the Beckett Quarry was called Turner's Switch. So there was another switch there. From Turner's Switch at that parking lot, it was the steepest grade. That's where the steepest grade actually was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they usually only ran 1 or 2 trains per day, usually at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They couldn't bring more than 2 cars going up, and that's because of the steep grade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Coming down, all men were on the brake.
I was going to say.
Yep.
Hopefully.
It is so steep. And I was saying to Ann, I said, well, it's not going up that's so bad because they're empty. It's when they're coming down with all that loaded granite on there. But I was just impressed with the elevation difference and how that train could make that difference. I said, and I thought the same thing. I said, they've got to Pete's point, switchbacks or whatever, something to break that grade down.
There are. Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see a map of just where that railroad
we have a
actually
full
ran.
size actually.
Right.
We love infographics, so we make the giant boards, and I have the full survey of Beckett and Chester, and we had those out on display at that. You need to come with us out there. You can actually hike almost the entire Chester and Beckett Railroad from the Beckett Quarry to our granite saw.
I was wondering if you could do that.
Yes.
That's still, because you could definitely see the rail
Yes.
bed.
Yes.
You know, we discovered that when
Part
we were
of the
coming up.
rail bed is an official trail, which is the Chester and Beckett Trail, where the trailhead is on Hamden Street. So next time you're out and about, you need to stop there and you can walk it. And that rail line stopped at several different quarries. There was Keefe Quarry, which it was a white granite, beautiful white granite.
Wow.
The pink granite, Mitchell, so it's that entire vein just, they were pulling the stone out, and it was a varied colors. So Chester is Chester blue. They call it Chester blue. It's a dark bluish gray.
Pete, can you pull up that photo of the quarry? That's the one that looks like it's all filled with water. Looks like a lake. Looks like a pond.
Yeah, it is flooded.
So Harry, I was looking at your photos when I was in New York, and I noticed that I think you missed.
There it is.
You missed the drill site, the test site cave.
Oh,
you didn't see that?
No.
Yeah, that's cool. And
He has to come on a
there's
hike with
tracks.
us.
There's
That's
tracks that lead into it.
There's a cave.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
A test.
Right.
It was where they tested the drills, the drill bits. So the mechanic
So there's all these
shop.
little holes all
Yeah,
around.
Yeah.
inside.
That's a cool
So,
place.
Pete, pull that photo up again, if you would, please. So the photo that you're looking at, this is actually the quarry itself. Now, it's filled in with water,
Yes.
and I'm guessing it's significantly pretty deep,
They believe 80 feet.
80 feet. And what's really cool, I'm standing, I guess, on the eastern edge of it, looking out. But if you were, and you won't be able to see it in this photo, but to the left, almost down to the end, you can still see one of the old derricks. It's still
Yeah, it's up
in
above,
place
yes.
with
It's been-
all the cables. You can't see it in this photo, but all the cables are going right across.
It was
the,
reconstructed by the Beckett Land Trust. It's 180 feet tall.
Oh, they reconstructed
They
that?
reconstructed, and we actually have 2 derricks at our finishing plant as well.
Yes,
and I just
right.
recently got an email of, with the same person that reconstructed that one to help us reconstruct ours.
Oh, you are going to try to reconstruct yours?
We'll see if the town of
Right.
Chester
So
lets me go
talk
that
about
tall.
those were called guide
derricks.
derricks?
And there's a guy derrick, stiff leg derrick. There's different kinds.
Okay, can you talk about those? Because those were pretty significant about how did they leverage and pick up
Right.
these huge, heavy blocks of stone.
Derricks,
I don't know how heavy
yeah.
those things were. but-
And we have some interpretive signage along the granite saw trail that we have. We have a walking path. It's very short, but we have as much signage as we possibly could fit in there with historical photos, including historical photos of the Beckett Quarry of what it looked like when they were
Right.
actually working it. So we have 2 derricks on our site. One of them is almost 100% intact with all the parts. It's laying on the ground, obviously, but you can actually see the timbers that came. It's a big pole. It was a big pole with an
Yeah.
arm coming off,
Right.
and that's how they picked up and moved the stone. At the Beckett Quarry, if you really know your way around the Beckett Quarry, you can find much more machinery and equipment than you saw when you went up there.
Is that right?
Yes, there is much more. There's grout pans, which were giant shovels that they used to scoop up the stone and move it. And we have one of those also that we just uncovered last
Oh,
week.
yeah, I saw that, right.
We just uncovered that last week.
I saw that.
So
Greg
those
showed us
derricks
that.
would pick up the stone and move it so they would take it out from when they quarried it and load it onto the train cars. So that little arm would be putting it onto there's no way to lift these blocks.
No, I can't imagine.
They're unbelievably huge. So the same thing was happening at our finishing plant, is they were moving it around the plant that way. And when the stone came down the mountain to Chester to our granite saw, it was coming down on the rail cars, and they were taking it off the rail cars at our loading dock, which Karen was essential in recreating.
You did a great
I
job.
love the loading dock.
Right,
The
it's
loading
really
dock.
cool.
A year ago when we started, that was my first project, was the stairs down the end to the right, to the back. That was all covered in trees and branches. It was a mess. So that's where I started working. And then this year, the guys took over and started to winch. It was like missing a stair or two. So they winched the correct stones over to the stairs. So now you can walk up and down nicely.
Right.
Where last year it wasn't as easy. But we cleared it all off. I was there with my chainsaw.
I was just going to say
and
that. So
It was so much fun because it was a mess. Those stairs were a mess.
you'd be
last year.
surprised how good Karen is on her chainsaw. I mean, we're not. I guess we're not your typical Hilltown
I'm
girls,
going to say, why am I not surprised?
I am not
Knowing
surprised.
these two,
Go out
what
there
can't
with
the
our
two of
saws,
them?
you
What
know.
can't the two of you do? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. But the ultimate goal, and that's why Karen, when she saw the loading dock and the stairs, we have a photo of that. So the
That loading
ultimate
dock is
goal
really cool.
of the Granite Saw property is to completely historically recreate it to how it was before.
One of the things that's really cool about that loading dock, there's a channel that they built
Underneath.
to run underneath
Yeah.
to run the cables through.
Yeah.
And it's a straight shot.
Yeah, the derrick cables
Right.
to the winches. So the operator, the derrick operator, was at the other end of that channel. That's where he sat in this box, looking out the window. So he had a view of the entire yard, and that derrick would swing around the entire yard and move the stone. They also moved the stone with overhead rails that were inside every single building. So, I mean, I was told that when the Granite Saw was in operation, it was so loud, you heard it coming down the hill from Blanford. You knew. Chester was a loud,
Oh, I can
dusty,
imagine. Right.
and then you have the train.
Yeah.
A loud,
Right.
dusty place. But it was booming with development. It employed people.
Right.
A lot of people. It would be the place to live and relocate your family because there was work there.
So how long did it actually operate?
So from 1870 till we're at about 19, we think between
1940
46. 46
Lovely.
was the last blueprint. Someone had found a blueprint in their attic and gave it to Dave Pierce, who gave it to me. 1946 to 52. There was one final fire somewhere between 46 and 52, and that's actually where I'm at right now to find that exact date where there was a final fire. There were several fires, and back in the day, there was no, you call the fire department and they come along and
Yeah,
help you
right.
out, right? So there were many fires in the emery plants, in the granite plants, everywhere.
Usually probably dust fires,
and-
dust explosions.
Machinery, a lot of the machinery caught on fire. I mean, this was a steam-operated plant. Later on in the years, they did get some electricity, but the electricity ran only certain components and a few lights. I found an old light bulb the other day. I didn't even tell you yet. And so it was a massive operation. And to pull all the pieces together is what we're doing now. When you see me out there, whenever I get a chance, I'm digging in the dirt. Everything is covered between 8 and 12 inches of dirt.
Yeah.
So, Harry, you were looking for the
Yep.
route. The Hilltown Hikers are provided to the website that I look at.
Yep. Yep.
This is abandoned railroad, so
There
that's the
you go.
actual route of the railroad
Yep.
that you
See
guys
the
have mapped out.
switchback there?
Wow.
That's the Chester and Beckett Railroad.
Yep.
So I'm actually surprised that where it leaves Route 20, it's a pretty straight shot. I was
So-
expecting to see more switchbacks, and that's almost a straight shot up the mountain.
So where it connected to the Boston and Albany Railroad, which you're familiar, pretty much.
Yeah, down
everyone's
south of the
familiar.
Railway Museum,
Yeah,
it looks like.
exactly. So where it actually connected to the B&A is right when you enter Chester, heading west. You see a nice blue house on your left-hand side, and you kind of come down a slope. And before you hit the fire station, when you're on that slope, you're actually driving over the Chester and Beckett Railroad. And right at that point, right near Bay State Drive in Chester, is where it connected to the Boston and Albany. And then it only went that's exactly right. And then when it only went a short way on the B&A till it hit the Chester rail station. And and we're right across the street from the Chester rail station. So it was amazing. It's pretty flat right there where he's showing there on the map, and it's running behind Route 20.
Is that still
pretty-
open? Can you hike that?
We've
still?
walked back
Yes.
there.
Oh, you have?
Yep.
Oh.
You can. That's Fish and Wildlife property there behind Route 20 and Hamden Street.
We actually have to walk around somebody's property.
You can get, but the Hamden Street, Chester and Beckett Railroad is actually it's an official hiking path. We have a crosswalk. And so you can do a section of it. It's
Is
about
that the
a mile and a
campground right
half.
there, Pete?
Yep. Then it goes through Walker Island Campground, crosses Blandford Road, where Robbins Trestle was, and continues up the mountain, crosses Quarry Road, and then there's Quarry Road, crosses Quarry Road, and there's a switchback there at that first house you see on Route 20. It's actually for sale right now.
Right.
That was the Mitchell Mountain pink granite quarry there at the Mitchell Switch, and that's the Mitchell Switch, which is the turn, and that point is where it really got steep. But this was a railroad. It was very short-lived, and it was high maintenance because it was built into the banks of Walker Brook, so it was constant boulders, trees, fires.
Yep.
To be maintained, but the money was there in the stone, so it was worth the effort of building a railroad. And you have to think about that. That's not your average, manufacturing plant that you're going to actually build a 5-mile railroad to.
Yeah, right.
And that's why it's so exciting for us, because Karen and I, for years, we've hiked that whole Chester and Beckett Railroad. But for years and years, it was one of our favorite places to go. We would go there all the time, and we would learn about the railroad history from Dave Pierce at the Chester Railway Museum. And, it's everything we've learned as the years gone by. And now it's kind of come to this full circle package with us owning the Granite Saw property.
Karen, you were mentioning that up at the quarry there is more to see than I saw.
Oh, yeah.
Is that you have to hike further into the woods, or is it off? I know I saw that there's an old building that's obviously had a fire and all the steel structures kind of falling down.
If
and
you
it looked
keep-
like a flat path.
If you keep going up past there's a trail that goes to the up to where the derrick is.
Okay.
And there's a path that goes off of that to the left, I think, is where the
To the left and to the right.
is the
So,
test. Is
You
the
know
test
why?
hill.
Because
Cave.
Carrie's got. Was that your first time there?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So since the trustees have taken over that property, which was just last year, they have changed the signage, and they changed actually some of the names of the trails from when the Beckett Land Trust originally
Okay.
set it up. And Beckett Land Trust included all of the quarry, plus they have the forest trails, which there's 6 other trails there that you could hike that have more interesting things. But the way that the trustees have it set up now, they don't have it so that people go around the quarry. So
You just
can-
go up.
Yeah, that's why you really need to go with a
where the
guide,
old
and then
trucks are,
you could
right.
show. There are actually smaller quarries within the Beckett Quarry property as well.
Wow.
And there is a trail that goes completely around the large excavation hole. There's a trail that takes you all the way around. There's wonderful lookouts that you can see all the way past to Peru.
There were actually young men with a little bit of liquid courage swimming in the.
Oh, yes.
And they were jumping in,
Yes.
and
Oh, dear.
it wasn't a warm day when we were up there, and I'm like, "How cold is that water?" They said, "This water is really cold," but they were well insulated with their liquid courage to.
The cliff jumping
but
is
the-
popular
I
on
couldn't
YouTube.
believe- right.
Yes. And it's been a constant problem. It's
Yeah.
really a constant
It's-
problem.
It's
because,
not safe.
Because
No,
what's
it
in
isn't.
there, I could tell you just from
There's
us
things in
walking.
there.
So we have a lot of the similar equipment at our Granite Saw property. And just walking through there, you got cables and pieces of metal.
Oh, my
sticking-
gosh, there's a
so
lot of stuff in there.
imagine jumping in a hole of water with all that stuff in. I can't even start.
That was my thought immediately. You don't know what
Dangerous.
you're jumping into.
Very dangerous.
Right.
There's full derricks and cranes inside that in the
Oh.
water.
Don't do it. You brought with you 2 posters, and again,
Yes.
the time is just flying
Yes.
like crazy. So I don't know if you'd like to
Well,
address the information you
know,
brought with us.
We've been really focused on our Granite Saw property this year, working on donations, fundraising. We are on a lot of different funds where you could find us. You can donate through Facebook. You can donate right on our website. Anything is appreciated because, you can understand what we want to do is restore the property, and the most important thing that we want to get up by next year are weatherproof interpretive signage So like info panels where you can walk right up and you can see the history of what you're looking at. Right now I have things on garden stakes
Oh, yeah, right.
that I painted. But I mean,
I did a walking trail last summer on Vinyl Haven
in Maine.
in Maine with my granddaughter, and their walking trail had some wonderful, signage where they
Oh,
had the
yeah.
book pages
Oh, yeah, right.
inside, and it was
Historical
you
documents.
know, protected from the weather. And I sent pictures of those
Yeah.
to Liz. I said, "This is what we need."
That's exactly
for
what
there.
we're going to do. So it'll be a full interpretive trail. So like you walk through the Beckett Quarry and you're kind of just looking, and there's some old signs still left from
Right.
the Beckett Land Trust. We have much more than that already at the Granite Saw. So we have historical photos along the walking path, and we
Right.
have information on both our kiosks. We have 2 entrances, and we have our own parking lot also.
But the signs are not going to hold up to the weather.
Right.
Right.
We need to get something.
But I
better.
want to say kudos to you because I was impressed with the path. You've got wood chips down on it, and there's no poison ivy, so
Yep.
people don't have to worry about that. Very interpretive. Your signage is great. Your signposts. I mean, I could see all the work that you've been doing,
Yes.
and it was phenomenal.
Well-
But what a historical site that I would think that groups are going to start gravitating towards,
Absolutely.
school groups and things of that nature. But you've
Okay,
done a
so can
wonderful
we get
job
to
with
these
that.
events, please?
We just have to say that the volunteers
Oh, my
that we have are awesome. We could never have done everything
the
that's
entire 3
without the volunteers.
acres and the amount of dead tree cutting, dead trees standing, and not to mention the ones laying down. 80 years of just left. The volunteers that we have are just so amazing. And we looking, anybody who wants to come and volunteer that, with anything, even just moving brush, I mean, is wonderful. We try to do at least 1 or 2 work days a week, obviously until the snow falls. But our volunteers are the ones that have really cleaned up and opened up the property. When we tell you we're gathering together our before pictures, when we tell you you could not walk through, you could not walk through. And trees were actually falling on the machinery in the past. So we had to uncover everything. It's not just the dirt. We couldn't even get to the dirt. So we are maybe 15% uncovered there. That's it.
Oh, is
We're
that
on
right?
phase 1. Yeah, we have 3 acres to uncover.
You know what? It was amazing because there's one photograph that shows when the sawmill was in functioning. And the hillside is complete, Kathy. It was amazing.
Devoid of trees.
When you look, it's totally devoid of trees. And then when you look at it now, I'm thinking, wow, how in such a short period of time the forest completely took over. And these are big trees. We're not talking saplings.
No.
But anyway, to Kathy's
Yes,
point,
let's
let's get to your
get to
post.
these before
So-
Next
5
event.
minutes.
Yep.
So, we have a group hike on the 19th of October at the Keystone Arches. And this is a very, very popular hike, and we will have Mr. Dave Pierce leading it.
Narrating the
Narrating.
entire. So you're going to learn about the railroad that was first built, the Western Railroad that was first built going west. And this is actually an annual hike, and I can't remember how many. I think it's the 10th, maybe
I think
11th.
this hike was
time.
the first one we.
It was the
first
first
group
one
hike.
we ever did, and we did it with Mr. Dave Pierce of the Chester Railway Museum, and it's phenomenal. We've had as many as 175 people.
Oh, my gosh.
At this, we use the Chester Elementary School for parking. We carpool people to the trailhead, and it's a full afternoon of narrated and guided hiking. You don't have to do the whole thing. You can come and do half. We always offer options. But it's something, if you have hiked at the Keystone Arches and you're like, well, where are all the bridges? I can't see them because the
You're
trails,
walking on
the
them.
trails take you on top of them. It's called over and under because we will take you up close and personal to every single stone arch bridge there. These are dry laid stone arch bridges. And that's what we're doing on October 19th. That's in 2 Saturdays. And then me and Karen and our directors are hike leaders. Our directors are the hike leaders. Those are the people. So our board of directors are the big volunteers that are out there leading our public group events. Something that we're doing for fun this year at our sawmill is because everyone in Chester has been asking me, you got to do something for Halloween there.
Right.
It's creepy. It's creepy. It's called Sinister Sawmill, and that's on October 26th from 4 to 8. It's part of a Chester town-wide Halloween celebration, which also includes the Railway Museum. There will be food, fire, music, and we are doing a haunted saw.
What day
Right
of the week
across
is
the
that?
street.
That
The
is
26th.
Saturday, October 26th from 4 to 8. So it's downtown Chester. And we also have a parade for the kids. We have trunk or treat.
Like fun.
And we have a complete sound show at the sawmill. So you're going to walk on a you're going to walk a short distance on a path. And I did say, didn't I say, be prepared to get scared out of jump out of your pants. You're going to jump out of your pants.
Okay.
So we have one of our volunteers is that's what he does for a living is sound out in Berkshire County. He's from Hancock, and he's going to come and do a complete sound program. So you're going to be walking in the woods in the dark, and you're going to hear a heartbeat. You're going to hear
dear.
that saw run.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dear.
Yes, I might be the one that's underneath the saw blade. I'm not sure yet. Not sure yet. Karen.
I have a wedding.
Oh,
You
I
have a
wanted to
wedding.
put you
I have a
on
wedding
the
that
saw
day.
blade.
I can't.
Well,
love
ladies,
fingers
as
with it.
always, the
And we brought shirts for both Kathy.
Oh, my
wow.
gosh.
Those are our saw
Exciting.
shirts.
I love it.
Shirts. We had shirts made up for Chester on Track last year. Largest saw in the state, the Chester Granite Saw, and
Oh,
in the
that's
front
fabulous.
it says, me and Karen are both wearing these. I saw it in Chester.
And we shall wear them proudly.
It is the
I love
newest.
these.
It is the
Oh my
newest,
God, these
most
are great.
exciting tourist destination in Western Mass. The Chester Granite Saw. So this one goes to
It
Kathy.
is exciting. Thank you
Are
so
people
much.
finding, you've got a lot of people coming in to see it?
Oh yes, there's continuous foot traffic there, and it's not just
great.
the weekends; it's during the week. Because I'm usually the one that
I'm working
goes
during
there
the week. So.
during the week. Karen's working, so I'll pick a couple days during the week. I can go there and work on the restoration, digging in the dirt. I sift the dirt for relics, and there's always people there, always people. So I'm giving little mini tours. It's just when
You know,
I'm there.
we have a family, we always do a family October dinner drive in the Hilltowns with Ann's family. They come up from Connecticut. And we're taking them to the saw.
Oh, that's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
idea. Great idea.
We're actually going to go there on Friday and show
Great
them
idea.
Oh,
that.
cool.
Because they
All right,
see-
ladies. Well, we are out of time already.
We
Oh,
knew
no.
we knew that was going to
Fast.
come
I
quick.
know. And we do thank you so much. Peter,
we
if you
sure
take
do.
us to break, and we will see you back here again.
So thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
both of you.
We love it.
Well,
Go
we
for it,
love the
Peter.
two of you. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank-
Girl dancing down those dirty and dusty trails.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
From 6 until at least 7:30,
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show.
right here on WSKB 89.5.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
And again, Harry, we are back for our second hour in WSKB.
Yes,
and
we
Ken's
are.
Den. Ken is not here. We just had...
We had Liz Mazza and Karen McTaggart from the Hilltown Hikers, and they're just fascinating. Their passion for what they do and the amount of energy and excitement that they have for really researching and rediscovering these historical treasures in the Western Mass is just incredible in our hill towns.
I think another really good point about that particular group is that, folks, you can start with a very small idea.
Yeah.
If it's something you want to do and you're invested in it, go for it and try it and look at what's happened, because they just started hiking by themselves, then inviting a group on, and now they're a 501c3 and they're buying property.
Right.
So,
but they had real interest
it's
in history,
amazing.
just like you do. You're the chair now of the Westfield Historical Commission, correct?
Yes, I am.
Good for
So,
you.
and
You have history going right by your house. I mean, I'm fascinated with the old canal.
I do. So listen, Harry, you just got back
Yep.
from a trip, and we're getting into Thanksgiving. There's a couple things I want to get to today. I do want to get to Haunted Westfield in the last half hour and talk about some of the buildings in Westfield that are haunted. But you just went overseas, and people are starting to, Thanksgiving is coming, so they're thinking about travel for the winter time and getting to warmer climes. And I do have to say my heart and everybody's heart is thinking about Florida and what they're going to go through. So we do want to say...
Especially as we watch what's just happened.
I got friends in Pinellas County. They're in the firing line.
I have friends in
That's the
Tampa.
peninsula just west of Tampa.
And we look at what North Carolina is dealing with. In
so
the
our
mountains of
hearts
North
are with
Carolina.
them.
It's unbelievable. They're totally decimated.
But you and I both went overseas within the last couple months. So when you're traveling, first of all, Harry, what are the best days to actually fly? Do you know, in your experience?
The best days to fly when there's no people.
There's never no people.
Yeah,
that
right.
much I know.
There really isn't.
Domestically, Thursdays are pretty good.
You know,
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays also, Peter. The middle of the week, anyways.
also
probably.
Saturdays, because people are generally
Already
wherever
there.
they're going.
Good point.
They have flown in on a Friday. They're flying out on a Sunday, so Saturday is a good day to fly as well. But yeah, we just got back. We were in 7 countries. We went for 16 days. We were in. We left on the Wednesday following Labor Day weekend. So we flew to Copenhagen. Stockholm. Yeah, we were in Stockholm, in Sweden. And then so we hit Sweden, Finland, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Germany, and Denmark.
Holy smokes.
And we ended up in Copenhagen. And it was a phenomenal trip. And we have become fans of, you talk about when to fly, I'm talking about when to travel. Now, as retirees, we don't travel. We used to always travel in the summertime because that's when our vacations were, when we were working. Now we don't, because the whole world is traveling in the summer, and you've got all parents with children also traveling in the summer. So lines are huge. Getting into restaurants is a problem. Airports are jammed. So we now are shoulder season flyers, and travelers. So we travel in May and June before the kids get out of school, and then we travel again in the fall. We do 2 trips a year, big trips. in the fall, right after Labor Day, when the kids are back in school. You get rid of a tremendous load of tourists out there. Now, it's still busy. It's still very busy, but it's not overwhelming. The lines are manageable. You can get into restaurants. You can get seating without a problem. And as busy as it is in the shoulder season, I think about, oh my gosh, let's double this in the summer when you've got families out there. So, and the weather is generally better. It's not as hot. It's a little bit cooler. And everything is geared up, so you've got full services. So it's a great time to travel, quite frankly, just because you're getting rid of so many of the tourists.
Now, do you have the global entry? For those of you that don't know, you can do your pre-check with TSA, so you don't have to stand in the line. There's good things and there's bad things. Do you have the pre-check for TSA?
We do have TSA. We bought it a few years ago, and the downside to TSA, a couple of things that people need to know.
Yeah, explain to them what it is to begin with.
Okay, so TSA, it gives you, so when you go into the airport, you've got a couple of checkpoints that you've got to get through. They're checking passports, they're checking make sure you have boarding passes, and they're checking security. So if you are traveling domestically, you need to have, well, it isn't, Pete, I'm not sure when the deadline is, but you have to have the
real ID.
The real ID,
yes.
which we have now. So it looks just like your regular driver's license, except there's a little star in the right-hand
The
corner.
real ID has been extended out a couple of years because of COVID.
Okay, thank you.
I think the deadline is in like 2 years, 3 years, something like that.
Or you can use your passport.
Right. Or you can use your passport.
Or a passport card.
But
I use my
domestically, Pete, can you still use? Oh, you have to.
Right now, you can use your license for another 2 years.
Your regular license. But when that deadline comes, you're going to have your real ID or a passport. But you don't want to travel with a passport if you're domestic. So just go. You got to get the real ID anyway. So just go and do it. It's not that complicated. You just got to make sure you've got all the right documentation. And then we went to AAA, and it was really a no-brainer. So when you get into the airport, you have your security lines. Now, you have the regular security line where you have to take off your shoes, you take off your belt, you've got to take your iPads and your laptops out of the bags, you've got to take all your fluids out, or you can go through TSA. Now, Pete, I forget what TSA stands for.
Transportation Security Administration. Another layer of bureaucracy.
I knew he
would know.
Pete knows this stuff. So this allows you have to go, and there's a place in Springfield off of Mill Street.
It's very easy to find.
Very easy to find, and it was an easy process for us. Again, we had to bring our documentation, but as long as you really go through what you need to have with you, it was a seamless process. We weren't there very long, and then we got our TSA. Now, what that allows you to do is a separate TSA line, so you're not
It's a pre-check, yes.
It's a pre-check.
Did you notice that Bradley moved it way, way down to the other end by internationals now?
Oh, yeah.
No.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
So you don't have to take off your shoes, and you don't have to take your iPads out and stuff like that. Now, unfortunately for me, I have an artificial hip. I still have to take all that stuff off because
I send the
thing off. But what you will find now is that everybody has done TSA.
So the lines are getting longer.
The lines actually
that's true.
are longer than when you look at the regular. I'm like, what do we pay for TSA? Look at our line compared to the other line.
But you don't still have to take your shoes off.
Right.
There's less restrictions on what you have to take out of your bags.
It is still quicker.
It moves pretty fast.
But everybody has gone to TSA now.
I will say that when we went and applied for the TSA, we applied online first, and then you go, and it's very easy to do, folks. You go online, you get all the paperwork done, but then you have to go and have it verified over in this place in Springfield. It's on the south end, very easy. You just get right off 91.
Right.
It's very easy to
right
get
up
to.
Mill Street.
We got all the way over there, and I had the wrong passport.
Oh, no.
I had an expired passport.
Oh, no.
And that's what I said. I went, oh, no. And the man was lovely. He said it's no problem. He just went in. He found the new one in there, and
Oh,
he, I was
everything's
thinking
online,
he's going to
right.
tell me, "Go home and get the other one. What's the matter with you, this stupid woman?" But he was very very nice
No, they
about it.
were great to work with.
So you're right. The TSA now, the pre-check line is getting as long as it's up to you folks if you want to do it.
And I forget, it was like $70 or
You know.
$80 or something.
Yeah, I think it was 70 bucks for
yeah.
5 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? You have to decide how much do you fly and
Right.
how much traveling you're doing. If you're only flying once a year or once every couple of years, it may not be worth it to you to spend that kind of money. But if you're flying regularly or semi-regularly,
It's a good idea.
it's worth it. And to Pete's point, over 5 years, you amortize that. And
Now we did get, and
worthwhile doing
this was, and to your point too, and you're absolutely correct. When we flew New Zealand, we got the global reentry, and that was 100, and that for me was silly because I'm going to go once, maybe twice more times in the
Right.
5 years. So for me to get global entry,
we don't have the global entry.
Global
We haven't
entry
gone
is
that
the
route yet.
TSA. Well, I will say I'm glad we did because when we disembarked in San
quicker,
Francisco
right.
to get on Air New Zealand, my lordy days, the lines
Yeah.
were miles
Right.
long.
And the other thing people need to know is that TSA doesn't work in Europe.
No,
It's
but
only
the-
here
yeah.
in the United States.
Correct,
So when you're
correct.
flying in any international country, it
That's
doesn't
good
work.
information.
Now in Europe, you don't have to take your shoes off, which is nice, but you still have to do everything else. But it's really no big deal. We just haven't gone the global route yet. We just haven't done it.
For once or twice a year, I don't know that it's worth it. Honestly, I shouldn't have. My daughter flies more than I do, so for her that might work.
Right.
So for both of you, question to both of you, for people out there that aren't seasoned travelers, that don't really know, and you're thinking of going someplace this year, travel bureau or do it on your own? Which one?
Depends on what you want to do, I think.
Peter, what do you do? Do you
Like if you're doing a
does a lot of
cruise or
himself.
something like that, I would say you could probably do it on your own. If you're doing a group cruise, you're better off going through a travel agent because they can usually get you a perk. If you want to do like a specialized trip, like Harry, did you plan your trip to Europe yourself?
No, we used a tour.
See, that's what
yeah.
I'm talking about. If you want to hit all the spots, you're better off going through a travel agent who can work with bigger groups and other
Right.
travel agents to kind of find the spots that you might miss on your
Right,
own.
because Ann and I we rarely travel by ourselves because we usually with her sister and her husband, and then there's another couple that we sometimes hook up with when we're in Europe. So there's either 4 or 6, but we always build in extra days. So a lot of times we do a cruise. We go, so like this time we did a cruise. We were in Oceania, but we spent a couple of days in Stockholm first. We spent a couple of days in Copenhagen at the end.
Nice.
Because we like exploring those cities, or like we end up in Amsterdam a lot, depending on the cruises we're on. Like if we're on Viking or other places, we've probably been in Amsterdam now 6 or 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
We always build extra days in it because it's such a fascinating city with all the art galleries and the canals and shops and just so much stuff to see and do there. It's just a lot of fun. So we always build in extra days. So we use a travel agent to help us with those hotels and stuff. Even when Ann and I went for our 45th wedding anniversary in May, we went to Hawaii. I used a travel agent for that because we were both on Oahu and Maui. We were trying to figure out all the excursions we were going to do. Where do we stay? They have all that history. They do this for a living.
Right.
It's so much easier, unless you really know where you're going. Now, Pete travels a lot on his own, and I'm always
I
impressed
do the
with it.
research beforehand,
Right.
though, too.
And Pete does a really, really good job on that. And if we're just going to a place, we flew to Madison, Wisconsin to see my sister. Well, okay, yeah, we're just going to do that on our own, but I don't need a travel agent for that. But if you're doing a trip and you're going someplace and you want to see everything there is to see, it's so easy to really to miss everything if you try and do it yourself because you don't know what you're supposed
We
to
don't
see.
know what we're doing, yeah.
And they have all that information. Well, okay, how many days are you going to be there? Okay, well, here's the things you really need to see, and then here's the things that you should try to see after that if you have time. It just helps lay out your trip. They can help find restaurants, make restaurant recommendations, but hotels are the big part of it too. And then also your transportation. How are you getting from the airport to the hotel? How are you getting from the hotel back to the airport? How are you getting from the hotel to wherever you're going if you're not renting a car? So, or even if you are renting a car, they can help you with that. So you really need to look at what you're comfortable in doing. If you like to research it, great. If you're not as comfortable with that and you want to have some help and some guiding tips on what to do and where to go and what to see, then go through a travel agent.
I also found that it helped with flights. They're better at comparing flights and looking for what you want than I am.
See, I go on kayak and usually you can find decent comparisons there.
And Pete, I'm curious about your history because the airlines, unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of airlines. We do it because we have to, but I'm not a big fan of them because I just think that they take advantage of people and they treat us like garbage, quite frankly. But when you go and research flights and the fees, you start looking, and then when you come back and say, okay, I'm going to pick that one, the fees have gone up. They know you're looking, and so the next thing you know, the fees have gone up again. They don't hold anything. You've got to grab.
It's on the problem is they're all based, and Amtrak's the worst at this. It's called on-demand pricing. So as people are looking at the prices go up and down and up and down and up and down, like and rental car companies are now doing this too. I originally booked for the last trip that I was just doing down to Tennessee. I booked a car, it was like $518 for a week. And like about 2 weeks before, I went in and looked again, maybe even a week before. All of a sudden, if you pay now, it went from $518 to $320. Like a $200 swing, because I booked early. Usually you get the better deals booking really early. Right. But I was looking at it going, I'm getting a way better deal now, booking now. And I just was like, I'll pay for it now. Just get it done.
So that's a good question for both of you, Peter, because I know you fly every year too. I am not a flyer. I avoid it at all costs. But when should you book your flights? When do you
Domestic, the earlier the better.
Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Pete. I think generally the prices are better if the earlier.
And then also keep checking it.
So what do you
because
mean by
prices?
that?
So you lock in. The earlier you go in a flight period, the cheaper it is because they don't know how much demand there is.
So a month early, would you say?
Oh no, several. If you know you're going, like when I do World Series, I know what the dates are, like in December. As soon as they open up those dates, I start looking. Trains, same thing. When I used to do the trip to Florida, it's always cheaper earlier. But then sometimes you just keep checking every couple of days because you could find the same flight for a cheaper price or a different flight for a cheaper price. Rebook and they'll give you a credit, either points or money. They'll give you credits if you can rebook it cheaper. So I've done that a couple of times too.
Pete, are you going directly to the airline's website, or are
yes.
you going through a...
Yeah, because domestically I fly Southwest because generally they're a better deal, generally, and their policy for people of size is much better than anybody else. Much better.
Flying overseas, Harry, when did you have to book to fly overseas?
Oh, we book way in advance. We're
months and months ahead of time.
Right. Yeah, because if you're doing an overseas trip, you better know a year ahead that you're doing it. I mean, that's not something that you generally put together a month before you go. You really need to be thinking about where you're going and getting hotels. The other problem is hotels. Before you even get an airline, you got to make sure you got a place to stay. These hotels, they book up fast. And there's rarely, if ever, a hotel that we go into where we don't hear them say, yep, we're totally booked, we're totally booked, we're totally booked. Because there's so many, and especially right now, and Pete, you fly a lot, so I'm sure you're seeing this, but since COVID, everybody's traveling. There is,
yes,
and the
uptick.
cruise lines have just exploded. They are building new ships
You know what
left
it is?
and right on this now. It's incredible.
People got generally doesn't happen until you get way older, but people got a taste of mortality. And
Yeah.
mortality breeds living life to the fullest, like having that gusto factor in your life. And so people aren't waiting to take that trip. They're just saying, you know what, I could be gone tomorrow, and I'm going to take that trip.
So all right, say that.
That's a big thing right now.
People out there are planning their trips. You're booking your trips, so book early, folks. Don't wait. So I'm packing to go to the airport. When do I need to be at the airport before my flight takes off? Harry, when do you need to be there?
You know, I was a road warrior when I was working, so I flew a lot, once, twice a week in a lot of cases. Suitcase was never out of our bedroom because I would just open it up, load up new stuff, and then boom, I'm on the road again. Before COVID, and Pete, I'd be interested in hearing your experience on this. I always figured if I'm there a half hour ahead, I'm good. I had it figured out. I knew how long it would take me. I used a park and ride place. I would get there. I knew how long it would take me to get there. As long as their buses were in the yard when I rolled in, I could get to the airport, and you buzzed right through. You didn't have all these issues. Now, and I have missed one flight because the lines were so bad after COVID. And I said, I'm not going through that again. So for international, the recommendation is 3 hours. The biggest hang up, and domestically they're saying 2 hours. Can you squeeze it down a little bit? Yeah, you probably can. I've come to the philosophy of I'm trying to reduce stress in my life. I am going to either be waiting at home or I'm going to be waiting at the airport. I'd rather be waiting at the airport, know I'm there, I can relax, and I'm in. Because you don't know what you're going to run into with the security lines and passport control. That's where the hang-up is. Once you get through that, you're flying, literally and figuratively. But you've got to get through those initial lines and then make sure that you've also checked in online ahead of time so you have your boarding pass. If you are carrying through, so here's the other big tip. If it's, domestically, I always try to carry through. In other words, I'm not checking a bag. I'm taking the bag with me. It's going into my overhead. And I'm used to doing that because that's how I always traveled.
That doesn't work well with a fat man.
Right.
My clothes are much bigger. They don't work
Right.
on carry-on.
But if you can do a carry-on, it skips a step because you don't have to go and check the bag.
That's where I missed my flight.
Right. You don't have to do that piece of it. Now, when we fly overseas, we're always bringing extra luggage with us, so now we've got to check that. But again, you can do a lot of that online within 24 hours. At the 24-hour mark, go online and you can get your boarding pass, get checked in, let them know that, yep, I'm adding one bag for each person. When you get to the airport, you look for the kiosk, and then you can use your passport or your if you've already printed out your boarding pass, you can put that little code in there. And now you can print out your bag tickets. They go onto your luggage. But you still got to get up to the gate or not to the gate, but to the where they're checking your bags and stuff. You've still got to get those checked in. So you've got some time that you've got to take care of that. If the airport is really busy, that becomes a problem. Now, it depends on the airport that you're going into. Now, we fly out of New York a lot, so we're out of JFK. We flew out of Newark this past time, LaGuardia. Those are very, very busy airports, so you've got to build a lot of extra time in. When we were in Europe, we were flying through small countries, Copenhagen, Denmark. I expected to not find lines, and I didn't. I didn't find a lot of people. These are smaller airports. They don't have the population base. These are not major hubs. They're small countries. It was easy. We just rolled in, did everything, and we then you find your seat. So, but I am a fan now of build in the extra time. If like we're driving to New York, you don't know what you're going to find with traffic. you could get hung up just trying to get to the airport because the traffic of construction or there's a accident. So many times we're flying, we're going down the highway and we're saying, oh my gosh, am I glad we're not on that side of the highway?
Oh, everybody
it's
does
totally
that,
backed
yeah.
up. Or we're the ones that are doing that. So you need to build the extra time in. If you have an early morning flight, you go the night before and you get a hotel room, because otherwise you're up at 2 in the morning. You haven't even slept, or 1 in the morning, because you got to get in the car and you got to drive. If you have a 7 o'clock flight, when you're flying to Europe, it's generally an evening flight. When you're coming back from Europe, it's a morning flight. So you're landing in the daytime here, but you're landing in the morning there. You lose your night. So you've got to really think about which way you're going, how much traffic is there. But again, I am of the fan. I've become a fan of my personal statement. I'm either going to wait at the house before I get in the car, or I'm going to wait at the airport because I'm already there and I'm relaxed. If I wait at home, now I'm in a very strict amount of time. I've got to worry about traffic, parking, getting into the airport, getting the bags taken care of, get my boarding pass, get through passport control, get through security. It all takes time, and depending on what I run into for lines, can become very, very stressful. So I'm a fan of build the extra time in.
I think that's also true with your flights if you have to change planes, because you never know what's going to happen in between. We had too short a time between San Francisco and my leaving for Washington, and I missed the flight because the bags didn't come out. They unloaded the bags. Oh, here's another thing I learned quickly, and then we'll go to break and change the topic. But I also learned your bags don't go with you on that plane. Did you know that?
Not always.
They do. I know that, Peter, but they don't always go with you on the plane you're on. You can track your bag now,
right,
online, and I learned that my bags went out, and that's how 99% of the time, you know how you're only there for a few seconds and the bags start coming out? Because those suckers are already there. Some of them are already there before you get there. I did not know that. My other hint is, folks, if you're getting off a plane and going to a hotel, don't wait for the shuttle. Call an Uber. Because what happens is everybody masses on that shuttle bus. Do you ever try to take one? And the next time, the next shuttle that comes in is not going to be in the same spot. So you can't line up there. It'll be up the road, and then everybody runs up the road. Right. And just getting on a shuttle is a nightmare. People are not polite. They don't let you on if you've been waiting. They don't care. They run in front of you. Take an Uber. It's much easier. Much easier.
The last thing I'll say before we go to break is that the other thing you need to be aware of, and we've gotten caught on this a number of times, is that you get to your gate and now you sit and you're really not paying attention to what's going on around you, and you're saying, where's everybody?
They change your gate.
They change your gate.
Happened to me.
And this has happened to us a number of
Happened
times.
to me.
So be aware of the fact that,
watch that monitor.
wow, I'm really early. No, you're not early. They changed the gate.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't always upgrade the monitor. So sometimes you need to go right to the airline website to see what they're doing, because the monitors aren't matched up to what's happening with the actual airline.
That's a really good point. Thank you for that advice.
See, when I fly Southwest, my app is set to alert me for any changes in the flight status.
And to Pete's point, so if you look at my phone, you're going to find SAS, you're going to find United, you're going to find American, you're going to find Southwest. I don't really use Southwest much, but I use their apps because, again, you do get the alerts. And Pete, to your point, those have been really helpful. They'll let you know, yep, we're about ready to board, or we're 10 minutes late, or, we're delayed, or whatever it is. So use as much information as you can and become comfortable with the technology to help you navigate it. Because when the system works, it works pretty well. But one other point about that, when the system breaks down, it's pretty bad. So if you're trying to fly, go early. get the early flights, because if there's a holdup because of weather or mechanical, that just starts exponentially getting worse and worse as the day goes on, and that's where you start seeing delay,
missed
flights,
you miss connections.
flights are canceled. So we always try, even though it's early in the morning, get the earlier flights you can, because typically less problems when you're first getting out.
Well, I thank you for that information, folks. If you're going to fly, go online, use Google a lot, look it up. Consider a travel bureau. Get there early. Take Harry's advice. Get there early and Peter's advice. Check early, book early, do what you need to do as soon as you can.
I would rather be twiddling my thumbs at the gate than running to the gate.
Me too.
I'm with you, Pete.
Because I hate the stress. I hate the running.
Either waiting at home
Hated
or waiting at the airport.
Hated
Wait
it.
at the airport.
Yep.
So let's go to break and we'll come back on the other side.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
And we are back. Here I am on Ken's Den, Kathy Palmer with Harry Rock to my right. And we have just some very quick things to get to, Harry. I don't think we'll get to much, but we'll do our really best. And it is Halloween. Ooh. So what I would like to talk about is some places right here in the city of Westfield that may be in the spirit of Halloween. Now, folks, I am not saying I believe in any of this. I'm not saying that any of this is real. I don't know. I can only tell you what I have heard about some of the spots in Westfield that you may or may not be familiar with. One of the spots, and I do want to make sure we get to the Westfield Women's Club because that one I do personally know about. But Harry, are you familiar? You're probably familiar with the term shirtlift mission.
I am.
And what do you know about the shirtlift mission? Anything?
Not much. I've heard of it.
Okay, well, Reverend David Shirtlift back in the 1880s bought property down just right over here down the road, right next door to the tennis courts and the playground. And he established the Shirtlift mission that some older people like me, don't you go there, buddies, they will remember when it was the Shirtlift mission. And it was not an orphanage, Harry. It was a home for destitute children. And back in those days, do you know, and I've got to find his name. He was a runner, and you would know his name the minute I say it. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Tommy Leonard. Do you know the name Tommy Leonard?
I've heard the name.
Tommy Leonard was a Westfield man. Sorry for the brain freeze. Tommy Leonard started the Falmouth Road Race.
Oh, really?
And then he also opened the Boston Marathon for many years. He had a bar down there, and he was very well known in that area. If you say Tommy Leonard down there, they know exactly who he is. He was a Westfield man. When he was very young, he lived in Springfield with his parents and his younger sister. And there is a book about Tommy, and it's called "If This Is Heaven, Then I Promise to Be a Good Boy." And the very first chapter is about his life at the Shirtlift Mission. Tommy always loved Fridays because his dad would come home with his paycheck and he would take the family out for ice cream, and it was always something he looked forward to. This particular Friday, his parents told the sister and he to pack up all their clothes and all their belongings, and he didn't quite understand why, but they did. And instead of going for ice cream, they came to Westfield and they stopped at the Shirtlift Mission, and Tommy and his sister went in the other room while he could hear them speaking to someone, and his parents left them there.
Oh, wow.
Dad was very ill. He did not have his job any longer, and he grew up in the Shirtlift Mission. It was not an orphanage. It was a home for destitute children. And they went off to, had a very long history here. I'm not sure how long the Shirtlift Mission operated. I know it operated, I think, into the 60s, and then the building became the Barnard Rest Home. That's probably the building that more people were familiar with. It has been torn down, and I believe there's condominiums there.
Yes, they're side-by-side duplexes.
Yes.
It was built on that site.
It had the reputation for having children's voices, that people that were living there, the residents who lived in the nursing home, often complained that they would hear children running up and down the back stairs. And there was a lot of noise, and there was one attendant who worked there. She went upstairs, and she had someone brush by her and touch her when there was no one there. So she said she would never go back up to that third floor again, and she wasn't going to work up in that ward. So was it haunted? Did the children from the mission still live there? I don't really know. The Short-Lived Mission does still operate in the city of Westfield. It is a 501c3, and they still do support things. I do believe they give money to places like the Dewey House. I know that we can apply for monies from there for school trips in the schools. I'm not sure what else they do. So it would be interesting to know, Peter, if there are still children's voices being heard in the condos, because it's my understanding that spirits don't recognize a building. They recognize
possible,
a
yeah. spot.
So that is one of the notoriously haunted sections in the city of Westfield. There are several. One I do want to mention because it has a soft spot with your wife and with me would be the Westfield Women's Club. Now we've had what, Peter, five paranormal investigations with Rob Goff,
I think so, yeah.
and he's coming in again next week. So I can share a few things with you. Again,
I was there for the 350 reveal.
Yes, you were.
I saw that light up.
Right.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. And I was there also. I'm not saying, do you believe in any of this at all, Harry?
I'm a bit suspect.
I am also. And I agree. And even when we have mediums come in, I think, yeah, okay, that's nice. But I'm never quite sure. But I will tell you some things about that building that I have been there and I have seen happen, which is very, very unusual. In the beginning, we had Rob come and do his presentation. We did not know him at the time, and he had not started. And if you remember, were you involved in the 350 at all, Harry?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to recap briefly and say that the 350 would not have happened without Harry Rock.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Oh, I'm absolutely positive. Harry Rock was the face of the 350, did a phenomenal job. And how long before we even started did you begin working on that?
We were... I think about a year and a half out. I got pulled into it kind of late in the process, and they hadn't gotten too far. So I think we're about a year and a half out. I think about a year and a half out. So 2017 probably is when I came into it.
You started. And this was, and we were so lucky because we just missed COVID.
Oh.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Oh, my lordy days.
I look at Southwick and some of those other communities. Hatfield, they got decimated. All the events that they had planned, they couldn't run. Our last thing was really December of 2019, and then 2020, March of 2020, the world shut down.
Well, the paranormal investigation was part of the 350, if I remember correctly. Yep. And if you remember, we had Rob come in. Yep. Rob Goff runs the paranormal activity, and he also does a show here, Peter, when? What days?
Thursday morning from 6 to 8.
Oh, wow, that's a long time. Yes, so he came in, and he was standing. Now, if you've never been in the Westfield Theater, and you must come because we open in 10 days now with birthday candles, please do come and see it. It's a 90-minute show, which is great for people who don't like long shows. It's going to be fabulous. We want to see you there. You can go online and order tickets, or there will be tickets available at the box office.
We'll be there ushering.
Excellent. Please do come down and see the show. And then at Christmas time, we have Holiday Inn, and I will have more information on that forthcoming. But in any event, there is a stage, but Rob was not on the stage. Rob was on the floor. Now, the front of the stage comes out, and we call that the thrust. First of all, when Rob started talking, and you were there that night, there was a huge bang.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, we have heard that bang on occasion. I have no idea where it comes from or what it is. It's coming from up above somewhere. There are no heating vents up there. When we heard it one time when we were there, I had sent someone up to check. There's a trap door that goes to the roof. I said, go up and check that, see if that can be banging. And someone went up and they came down. They said, Kathy, that's wedged tight. It's not budging. So it's not coming from up there. But that's only one thing. That's just a bang. So we're sitting there listening to the conversation, and Rob is talking, and I'm sitting maybe 3 or 4 rows back. And I very distinctly, Harry, as clearly as I can hear you, I heard footsteps walking across the thrust. Now, I know I did because at exactly the same time, my friend was sitting in the row in front of me, and she turned to her brother and said, did you just hear those footsteps on the stage? So not only did I hear them, but she also heard them. So whatever, and they were footsteps. Now, there are heating vents underneath. They come straight out. They're on the edge of the stage. Could it have been something with the heating vent?
Doubtful.
I guess, but it was very distinctly footsteps walking along. We had another time, and this was again something I witnessed. I was downstairs, and like I'm sitting at the end of this table now, there was no one to my left. There was no one sitting there. And we had a meeting, and I very distinctly heard someone in my ear said hi or hello. It was very distinct. Now, could I be hallucinating in my dotage? That is a possibility. But I don't think I was. And I did hear it. And I thought, well, you know, again, the heating vents are quirky in that building. It's an old building. And if you're standing near the vent and someone upstairs says something, you would swear they're next to you. So I thought, oh, it's the custodian upstairs with his kids. I went upstairs, left the meeting. Upstairs was dark. There was no one there. Did I hear it? I don't know, folks. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Again, we were leaving one night, and it was my friend Marion Dunk. May she rest in peace. She is very, very desperately missed. I still miss her every day.
Yeah, we all do.
And she was the last person out the door. The door was still open. I'm on the sidewalk, and she stopped dead, and she said, someone inside is playing the piano. Now, that has happened before. You could say, well, you know, maybe there's a mouse in there walking in the piano keys, so there might be explanations for it. However, we close the keyboard. It's an old piano. It's a grand piano. We close the keyboard, and we cover it with a very heavy cloth. As you know, you've seen it. So it's covered.
Right.
That has happened before. We had someone come in to work on the lights, and usually when we're by ourselves, unfortunately, we've had different people in and out who should not be in there. And when I'm there by myself, I come in and I lock the door behind me, and that's the practice we have. And he was upstairs working on the lights by himself, and the piano was playing, and he just assumed someone had come in.
Yeah, right.
But when he went downstairs, the door was still locked, and there didn't seem to be anybody there. Does that mean they could have been? Yeah, it's very possible that they did.
Highly unlikely.
I don't know. We had a mother. Now there's some, and they found this with the paranormal investigations. And again, folks, can there be explanations? Yes, there absolutely can. I just don't know what they are. But in one of the investigations, if you're sitting up in the balcony on the right-hand side. We had one of the investigators sitting there, and he was blindfolded, and he had the earphones on to what they call the spirit box. Again, the jury's out. I agree with both of you. The jury's out. But the man was blindfolded, and we got all done, and he said, "Did one of you keep touching me?" Now, by that self, that doesn't mean anything to me. Maybe he just felt it. Maybe it was a bug. Maybe, I don't know. And we looked at him, we said, no, we were all on the other side of the balcony. However, we had a mother who kept coming to the show because her son was in, I don't remember what show it was. It might even have been Singing in the Rain. It was that long ago. And she complained that somebody kept touching her on the shoulder. And that's the area she was in. I will say that I was leaning against the stage after Arsenic, and I was looking up, or it could have even been Robin Hood. I think it was Robin Hood. And I was looking up into the balcony, and am I hallucinating? Yep, I could be doing that. Oh, look, shiny thing squirrels.
Nope.
There was a shadow that I didn't think should be there. And I thought, I'm just not seeing this. No, it's not. No, it's just a shadow. And I looked, and it wasn't there. And that's in the same spot where they were hearing that. Now, we've had so many other things. There was a stage manager, and she's going to be the director for the spring show. The screen was down. We used that movie screen.
Yeah.
And the screen was down, and this was intermission. And somebody was walking behind the screen, and they were tapping on the screen as they walked down. It was very annoying because no one is supposed to be back there. So she went back to say, "Get out of there." And she didn't see anyone. Yeah. And you can't get off stage left. There's no stairway. There's no exit. You have to come back across the stage. So is it true? I don't know. We had someone that was working on a women's club project. She was downstairs. She came in. The water was running. She went in and thought, oh, somebody left it. She turned it off, went back into the lower level. You're familiar with that. And the water turned on again. And I mentioned it to our house manager, and she said, oh, yeah, that happens all the time. Now, again, can there be something wrong with the faucet?
Right.
Yeah, sure there can. I will say this much, that when Rob comes, he uses dowsing rods. Now, again, whether you believe this or not, I do think that some of these things are brought on by ourselves. I think we have the energy to emit certain things. Don't know. But he shakes them out, makes them loose, and there were probably 12 people in the room, all around the room, and he said, is there anyone here that you recognize, that you know? And the dowsing rods pointed to me. And that was the second occasion that has happened. We've brought in mediums, and and again, jury's out, but they claim that there are two people there, that there's a Jonathan and a Caroline, and interesting, they find Jonathan in that upstairs balcony in the mulberry room.
Wow.
So whether you believe in these things, the other notorious place is Pine Hill Cemetery, of course. If you do any research on spirits, they don't really. You and I have spent a lot of time down in Mechanic Street, and I'm fine there.
Yeah.
I'm fine there at night.
Yeah, I never even think about it.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. There is no reason, according to research, for spirits to stay there. They don't have an attachment. But there are many stories, and you can go online and find these stories, actually. There is a website about local hauntings, and that's where I get a lot of this information, except for the Women's Club. But the Pine Hill, they claim, and again, it's kids going in there, who knows. I think when you're looking for something, you will find it.
Right.
If you think you're going to hear a noise,
right,
You're going to hear it.
Right.
But they claim that they've heard noises, they've heard voices, they've had people throwing things. I will say, folks, you are not allowed in there after dark. Please don't go in there. They will find you and they will ask you to leave. The fence used to be down. It is no longer down, so you don't have access. But supposedly things happen in there. There is a famous story about kids parking, just enjoying each other's company, I'm sure, in the parking lot up here on the upper campus, and supposedly there were sticks and stones being thrown from the cemetery. I tend to think it's probably kids having a good time throwing things, but then again, that's only me. So there you have it. There are other places. There are some houses. Ken will share some information about his. Have you ever had any of these experiences, Harry?
No, I can't say that I have.
Nobody's after you.
Nobody's after me.
Nobody's-
And we live next to a cemetery. We're right next to Middle Farms.
Yeah.
And we walk through there, not routinely, but periodically I'll go in just to look at the graves. I enjoy looking at the gravestones.
It's
and seeing
very
where
well
they
kept,
go back.
too.
And it's in exceptional shape. They have really done a lot of work up there in the last 2 years. It looks like a brand new cemetery. All the stones are nice and white. They've cleaned off all the algae and the dirt and stuff that was there. So they're easily to be read, but never, no.
No,
No
I
sightings,
don't
no
either.
weird
And
happenings.
if there was anything in the old burying grounds, you and I would know, because we
Right.
do spend
Right.
our evenings in there, but never. But anyway, thank you, Harry, for coming in.
Happy to do it. Always happy to be with you, Kathy.
I have a few
Time's
more
gone.
dates to give you.
Okay.
So if you're going to be around and not traveling, when is your next
Somebody
trip?
keeps going to be going on cruises a lot.
That's correct. Absolutely. And we'll hear about the cruises when he gets back. And you, when is yours?
Mine? I don't have anything coming up.
You're not going on a cruise?
Nope. Nothing
You know
coming up.
You know what Pete does? Pete flies to Baltimore a lot because he's got this deal where if he flies to Baltimore, this is the craziest thing. He flies to Baltimore, hangs out all day on his iPad or his laptop. Does work. And then he flies back and he gets a companion pass and an extra free ticket for himself. I don't know what kind of deal he's got, but he does
That's
this
a
all
great
the time.
deal.
So Pete's
That's
constantly like, "You're going where? Baltimore. What are you
Yeah,
going to
I've
do
done
there?
it.
Sitting in
If
the
I have the
airport."
money, I'll do it. I did that. That's how we got to Tennessee. We did 2 tickets and I booked early. It was $210 round trip for 2 people.
Excellent. Well, folks, that's it for today. Ken will be back next week. And your show will be when?
I am the last Wednesday of this month with Rock on Westfield, and right now every Tuesday today and Thursday at 2:45, my Westfield Council on Aging Presents show is airing.
Okay.
So that's twice a week at 2:45. So
Harry's everywhere. We're out.
Good to know. All right, thank you.